Yeah, this is the redo of the World Class Championship Wrestling video. The other one messed up for some reason, so I'm gonna do it over again. Yeah, World Class Championship Wrestling was formerly known as Big Time Wrestling. It was promoted in the southwestern United States, specifically Texas. It was based out of uh, East Texas because West Texas was promoted by the Funks, by Dory Funk Sr. and his two sons, Dory Jr. and Terry. And South Texas was the Guerreros. Once again, like I said, the different NWA territories. Wrestling was so regionalized and fractionalized and marginalized in those days. It was hard to. It was easier for guys to get around because you could knock it over in one territory and get over in another territory. Every territory had its mainstays. AWA had Nick Bockwinkel, and WWE had Bruno Sammartino and Gorilla Monsoon, and Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling had Wahoo McDaniels and Jay Youngblood and Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair. Um, uh, the San Francisco territory, Rare Shires territory had Ray Stevens and Pat Patterson and High Chief Peter Maivia. Even though these guys, they wrestled in other territories, their home territory was basically that territory. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the guys whose home territory was the Dallas, was known as Dallas by wrestlers, World Class Championship Wrestling, and it was the Von Erichs. Fritz Von Erich was probably like Vern Gagne in Minnesota. Fritz Von Erich, aka Jack Atkinson, was the most popular wrestler in the area. Now, Jack Atkinson was not German at all, not of German descent, but he was part of that late 40s, early 50s era of wrestling where the villain was always German. Nowadays, the villain would be Middle Eastern or just like in Hollywood, it corresponds to our current events. We're going through the war on terror right now, so the villain is more than likely Middle Eastern. Back then it was German or Japanese, because of World War II. He wasn't German. He was American. He used the claw, a move that he got from Japan, and he was trained by Stu Hart. And he was, I think, a 3-time AWA champion, if I'm not mistaken. He was never an NWA champion, even though his territory, World Class Championship Wrestling, was recognized the NWA champion, not the AWA champion. In fact, very few territories outside of Minnesota recognized the AWA champion. Memphis did. Memphis left the NWA and went to the AWA. And Jerry Lawler became the AWA champion in 1988. We'll be talking about Memphis later on in this video because it's important. It factors in. AWA does too. The territory was known when Fritz wrestled there in the 50s as Big Time Wrestling, and the promoter was Ed McLemore. Fritz was the most popular star. So when McLemore died, Fritz took over. And he basically promoted his boys, because he knew he could trust them. Other stars that came out of the territory, Iceman Kid Parsons, an African American star, Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express. They passed through the territory after they left Memphis. Before they went to Mid-South, they passed through this territory. Some of the mainstays were Playboy Gary Hart, the manager, Gino Hernandez, who passed away in 1988. Chris Adams was also a mainstay in this area. The Missing Link, the Great Kabuki, all these, Skandar Akbar, the manager, he managed a group called Devastation Inc. And several wrestlers broke in this territory also. One such One such wrestler was Cactus Jack. He broke in his territory. He broke in the later years, after, we'll be talking about that later, but the golden years for World Class Championship Wrestling was 1981 to 1985. This was the year that the Von Erichs and the Freebird feud happened. The Von Erichs and the Freebird feud was the greatest feud they ever had, even resulting in Kerry Von Erich winning the NWA Heavyweight Championship from Ric Flair in 1985. It started when the Freebirds came in from Memphis. They were built from Georgia. They didn't actually come from Georgia though. They later wrestled in Georgia though. But they came in as friends of the Von Erichs. There's Buddy Roberts, Terry Gordy, and Michael P.S. Hayes. And P.S. Hayes was the referee for the Flair Von Erich cage match in 1984. And he slammed the door in Kerry's face, and that began the feud. It lasted a few years. Another great angle was when Gino Hernandez blinded Chris Adams right before Chris Adams turned heel. Another great angle that I could think of was when Buddy Roberts of the Freebirds got his head shaved by Iceman Kim Parsons. Also, another great angle, the Precious Sunshine feud. Precious and Sunshine were two valets of Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin, and they eventually fought over Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin in a match. It was similar to what goes on today with Lana and Rusev and Summer Rae and all that shit. Real soap opera-y and all that. Fritz was one of the first to premiere such stuff like that, such episodic television that really wasn't seen in wrestling before him. After a series of deaths, including several Von Erich deaths, World Class Championship Wrestling decided to sell to Jerry Jarrett in 1989, but not before trying to save it. Because, like I said, Vince McMahon in 1982 set out on a mission to conquer all the territories, and this was really affecting World Class also. Another thing that was affecting World Class, and this happened in 1986. Jim Crockett, who was the president of the NWA at the time, decided that World Class Championship Wrestling could no longer use the NWA champion, so they had to crown their own champion. So they left the NWA. But again, like I said, in 1988, CWA owner, aka Memphis Territory owner, Jerry Jarrett stepped in, bought the promotion, and it became the USWA that was in existence until 1993 when they themselves sold to the WWE. Peace.